Prepare yourself for the terror. The prison of madness, where few enter and none return.
Welcome to Unsung Horrors. With Lance. And Erica.
Leave all your sanity behind. It can't help you now.
Welcome to Unsung Horrors, the podcast where we review underseen horror movies, specifically those with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. I'm your co-host Erica, joined by co-host Lance.
Hey, everybody.
And we have another guest for this episode, Laird Jimenez. He is the host and programmer for Alamo Drafthouse's Weird Wednesdays series here in Austin. Welcome, Laird.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, happy to have you. So you were a guest on my other podcast last year when we talked about conga.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's kind of funny that, you were a guest for a King Kong knockoff, like apesploitation movie, and now you're back for a different kind of knockoff movie.
I like knockoffs. I'm actually glad that you pointed out that connection. I hadn't thought of that. There's something special about knockoffs. It's like I don't know. In music, you have like the blues is like a style, and everybody does riffs on the same basic structure. Mm-hmm. I feel like copyright was a little bit prevents movies from doing that more often, outside of hyper specific genres. But so I think it's really fun that happened for a brief period in history before copyright kind of put the kibosh on such blatant ripoffs like the one we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one that we are talking about today is my pick, and it is called Demon Witch Child, aka The Possessed, from 1975. This movie is available to watch on Prime, Tubi, and YouTube. And as of this recording, it has 446 views on Letterboxd. I am going to get into a summary with spoilers, but that should not deter you from watching it if you have not already. So, Demon Witch Child starts with Mother Gautier, or Gautere. I'm not going to mispronounce it. She is an old witch and leader of a coven. She breaks into a church and knocks over candles twice and steals a chalice. She's later arrested for kidnapping a baby and desecration of the church. The second-in-command witch, whose name we never actually get, vows to put a curse on the police commissioner. At the police station, not having enough faith in her Lord and Master Satan to defeat sodium pentothal, or truth serum, Gautier kills herself by jumping out of a window rather than let the police find out where the kidnapped baby is and have her coven not be able to sacrifice it. The second-in-command witch gives the commissioner's daughter, Susan, an idol and Ascatar's necklace as a gift, and Susan immediately starts acting differently, snapping at her governess Anne and Anne's boyfriend, who is a reporter. Back at the hospital, Mother Gautier is pronounced dead, but that doesn't stop her spirit from removing her blankets and leaving to go find Susan's body to possess. Second-in-command witch does some incantations to amp up the possession and summon Susan to the coven's gathering in the woods. We get some hailing of Satan, followed by baby murder, baby blood drinking, and baby arm eating. The next day, children playing in a dirt lot discover the dead baby. Susan meets Father Juan and immediately asks if he has sex. When he says no, she calls him impotent. Father Juan flashes back to his subplot of a romantic interest before he became a priest, which will later resurface to be his test of faith subplot. Anne's boyfriend, the journalist, has a story about the baby murder and attributes it to Mother Gautier, and his boss agrees to publish it after some back and forth, but only if the article includes a picture of the dead baby, wounds and all. After reading the article, an angry mob goes to dig up Mother Gautier's grave and burns her body. Susan's father finally figures out that he should take his daughter to a doctor after she crab slides across the floor and spins her torso all the way around at the waist. The doctor says that she has a high IQ, citing that she speaks several languages. The father doesn't believe this, insisting that his daughter is pretty dumb. Susan is strapped down in a bed at the doctor's, and she's growling, cussing, and spitting. The doctor tries to science-plain how Susan knows all the languages all of a sudden, while Father Juan pushes for demonic possession and wants to bring in an exorcist. Back at the house, the maid discovers the idol given to Susan by the second witch and is immediately attacked by stuffed animals. Anne shows the idol to her boyfriend, whose first reaction is that it's devil-related. Father Juan, meanwhile, goes to the House of Three Sisters, where he was summoned to someone who needed a priest. He finds his old flame is now a prostitute, and she wants to blame him for what she has become. Susan fakes Anne's voice to call Bill, the boyfriend, and asks him to meet her right away at the park. Father Juan plays the organ for a girls' choir who has only learned the first few words of na 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 hey 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 goodbye when Anne comes to ask him to perform an exorcism on Susan. Back home, Susan morphs into Mother Gautieri and then scales down the wall headfirst with the power of Satan compelling her skirt to stay up and not show her underwear. Possessed Susan meets Anne's boyfriend at the park and attacks him. She bangs his head against the ground, killing him. When she insists he kiss her and he doesn't respond, she cuts off his genitals and gleefully skips off, carrying Bill's dick. The police were tapping the phones at the newspaper, so now Anne has been framed for her boyfriend's death because they heard Anne's voice on the phone. Susan shows up at the police station, however, with a gift for Anne.
It's my dick in a box.
And once she opens it, everyone finally knows that Susan is possessed by something evil. Susan goes to her aunt's house to kidnap her baby cousin and takes it to the coven's meeting in the woods for another sacrifice. The police show up just in time to stop it, but possessed Susan escapes. Father Juan catches up to her in the cemetery. Susan chokes him and curses at him, sounding much like Lavana from The Black Cat. Father Juan puts a cross on Susan's forehead. She stumbles backwards and impales herself on a cross, dying. That's Demon Witch Child.
It's a good synopsis.
I tried. It's not the easiest thing to summarize. So this film was written and directed by Armando de Osorio. He's done around 20 films. He's most known for The Blind Dead. Lance, have you seen the Blind Dead movies?
I haven't seen any of them.
Okay. Laird?
Oh, yes. I've seen the first one for sure. And I've seen Ghost Galleon. I haven't seen any of the others.
Okay.
Ghost Galleon takes place on a ship.
Right.
The first movie, because we're talking about ripoffs, this has one of the most amazing U.S. campaigns. It was released in the U.S. by a shady distributor as a fake sequel to Planet of the Apes. And there's a trailer on one of the DVD sets of how they advertised it, and I think it was called Revenge of Planet Ape or something like that. It's amazing. Incredible that they tried to do that because the movie has nothing to do with apes.
Yeah. I think
that's the first of the series?
Yeah, that's the first one, Tombs of the Blind Dead.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder, because I have the Coffin box set from Blue Underground, so I probably have that in there. I'm going to look for that after this. That's neat. I actually, I had previously only seen the first one, and I thought I had seen the second one, but it turns out I had only seen the first. So I rewatched all four last year, and I think I have a hot take that the second one is actually my favorite because it feels so much like a Jaws ripoff because there's a town celebration going on, but the blind dead are attacking, but the mayor's like, oh no, we got to keep the town celebration going on. Doesn't matter what's happening. And then he calls out some guy to come and go kill the blind dead. So it's got a very Jaws vibe to it, even though it's 73, but still, I call it a Jaws ripoff despite the year. I think all of them, or at least I know Ghost Galleon and Night of the Seagulls are on Prime. I don't know about the first two though.
Yeah, Ghost Galleon definitely is. I don't know if the others were. And I was going to watch Ghost Galleon, but I kind of want to watch things in order, and I'm sure they have nothing to do with each other at all, but I was hesitant on starting it.
Yeah, they don't. You can watch in any order.
I did watch his Fangs of the Living Dead, an earlier flick from the 60s.
Okay, I remember watching that. I thought that was like super gothic cheesy. I remember having fun with it. I don't think I rated it highly, though.
Did the Blind Dead movies stay as sleazy as the first one? it's been years since I've seen it, but my recollection is that it's like extra Euro sleazy.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we can start showing boobs and blood and stuff now. Yeah, let's do some of that. So yeah, it's definitely, they're still very slow, but they're definitely, they still have the sleaze going on. I don't remember Ghost Galleon being as sleazy, but I think it gets back to it at Night of the Seagulls. It's hard. They all run in together, especially because so much of the footage is reused in it, especially with the blind dead riding horseback. Like it's over and over again in it's this exact same shot. And I'm like, oh, that's from the first movie.
Economic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's economic. It's not lazy. Lance, what were you saying about Fangs?
Oh, nothing. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I was going to say that, yeah, you gave it a low rating, but enjoyed it. So again, like ratings on Letterboxd don't mean a damn thing.
I mean, we'll talk about that later when we get to that. When we get to ratings.
I'm already trying to make excuses here.
Yeah. He also directed The Lorelei's Grasp and Night of the Sorcerers, which has a Scream Factory double feature release. I'd recommend that. I just actually watched Lorelei's Grasp this afternoon with the Nashi cast did a commentary on it, which was really good. And then the last thing that I'm going to throw out there for De Osorio is a very, very hard recommend for the last movie that he made called The Sea Serpent from 1985. Now, I have no clue why this movie only has a 2.7 on Letterboxd. Again, getting back to ratings being subjective, whatever. But this movie has a googly-eyed snake monster that eats people, a score that is ripped directly from Jaws, a grumpy Ray Milland as the exposition marine biologist, and an exploding helicopter. This movie's wonderful, and everyone should watch it. It's on YouTube in 10 parts, unfortunately, but if you add the part 10 first and then go backwards, you can just hit play and watch it all. Anyway, watch it on YouTube, The Sea Serpent, 1985. It's wonderful. Okay, and just another thing I picked up on IMDb, and I don't know if this is true or not. I do know that De Osorio was also an artist, but one thing, and I only found it in one place, so this is why I don't know if it's true, and it didn't come up in the NashiCast commentary, is that De Osorio is also an artist, and he supplemented his income with original artwork of The Blind Dead. I found a couple of pictures which said they were his, and they look like artwork from posters. And a lot of the artwork on some of the posters looks like it was done by the same artist, but I don't know if it was him. So if I post something on Instagram, I probably, if I do, it'll be with a disclaimer. But I think it's neat if that is true.
According to the book Immoral Tales, which
you have that. Okay.
Yeah. The Immoral Tales does say, I mean, I'm assuming it was a fairly well-researched book. It's Pete Toombs, who runs the label Mondo Macabro now, and also wrote the book Mondo Macabro. But yeah, he, in the back of that book, it says that's what he did after he ended his film career, is he mostly just did painting, including paintings of the blind dead.
Okay.
Nice.
So I have a new goal in life is to get one of those in my house.
Original.
Yes. Thank you for confirming, because internet did not help with that. See, this is why you should invest not only in physical media for movies, but also for books, because now I know, because Laird has the book.
Remind me that next time I'm moving and I'm packing the 10th box of books. Why do I have so many books?
All right, so getting into the cast, this is starring as Susan Barn, the young girl, Marian Salgado. She was actually the dubbed voice of Reagan in the Spanish version of The Exorcist, which is why she was cast in this film. And she was also one of the Niños in one of the greatest films ever made, ever, Who Can Kill a Child. Also stars Julian Mateos as Father Juan, Fernando Sancho as the police chief, not Susan's father, but just another police guy. He was in a few movies. Lance, I think we watched this and I already forgot what it was related to previous episode, but Death of a Cyclist.
Oh, yeah.
I already forgot why did we both ended up watching that, but I forgot what episode that was for.
That was for, I think it was the skeleton of Mrs. Morales.
That makes sense. Hello. Spanish.
But no, yeah, I loved the police chief in there, Police Chief Morrison. He is so good in this.
Yes, he is. He's also in The Big Gun Down. He's in one of the Sartana movies. I'm not sure, Lance, you've seen all of those now, right? Maybe
Yes.
you recognized him. And then a couple of Ringo movies. And he's also in we'll call it a trauma giallo called In the Folds of the Flesh, which hard recommend on that movie too, if you can get your hands on it. Let's see who else. We've got Tota Alba. She plays the old witch who kills herself and possesses Susan. Kali Hansa as, again, she doesn't get a name, but second in command witch is the best I got for it. She's in a number of Jess Franco films, including The Perverse Countess, and she's also in De Osorio's Night of the Sorcerers. Angel Del Pazo plays the police commissioner, Susan's father, Mr. Barnes. He's also, and I recognized him right away from Horror Express, he's Yevtushenko in that. He's also in Antonioni's The Passenger. And then finally, Lene Fleming plays Anne Crawford, the governess. She's in a couple of the Blind Dead movies, as well as Candle for the Devil. So we'll get into our thoughts about the film right after this promo.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal: providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
Laird, I know you've seen this before, and that was part of the reason that I asked you on the show, because I was like, well, I know Laird's going to love this movie. What was so you mentioned in your review, and I think it was from like 2014. Was this a screening?
It was a Terror Tuesday, believe it or not.
Okay.
And AGFA has a print of this, and I meant to mention when you were mentioning all the places it's streaming, I'm not sure on Tubi or wherever the third one you named other than Prime, if it opens with a Code Red logo, that is almost certainly AGFA's print that was scanned for the source for those.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Yeah, the Tubi one did have the Code Red.
Yeah, so did the Prime one, yeah.
Around 2010 or 12, somewhere in there, Code Red borrowed a bunch of AGFA's prints, not telling them why. Maybe this is too much tea to be spilling on a podcast, but they, no, I'm just kidding. The guy who runs it is well known in circles for being touchy. So if he gets mad, I'm sorry, but he scanned a bunch of their prints and then released videos of them. And it's not like AGFA owns rights to the movies, so
right.
It just would have been polite to maybe have mentioned that. But
yeah,
I'm fairly certain that is the same print that I saw at Terror Tuesday, watching it again on a streaming service, which is surreal. It's like all the same damage, and it's pretty beat up.
It really is. Yeah,
I took some pink out of it, but otherwise there was zero restoration work done.
Yeah,
but yeah, I really appreciate it as both an Exorcist ripoff and just like a really good example of that kind of dreamy Euro horror tone. Because like I think I rewatched it this past week or two whenever I rewatched it, and I had just eaten a big dinner, and like I found myself like really wanting to nod off to some of the lower parts, and I don't mean that as like a slight against the movie. It's just it kind of like it can put you in that headspace really easily, because there's, I don't know, it's like droning almost in a way, but it's not lack of incident in this movie. Certainly there's a lot going on in this one, more than others, and I'm also a sucker for like bad kid movies, which I guess I'll talk about later when I recommend another one. But But the the girl in this, like, she reminds me of Taffy Davenport in Female Trouble. Like, she's just like such a little brat, and like when she's possessed, and the things she says to people are just so snotty. It reminds me of Mink Stole in Female Trouble.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely got those ups and downs. It's got those lulls where it feels very like slow, dreamy Euro horror, but then all of a sudden Susan will pipe up and say something like, "You're a fucking moron," you know. and then she is like, "You're a whore. You just sit there and fuck your boyfriend," and it's so good.
That's
I think it does linger. Diasoria does tend to linger a bit too long on some scenes. And again, it's not a bad thing at all. Like Laird said, the first time I rewatched it, because I was actually at that Terror Tuesday, I had to go back and look at my list of Terror Tuesdays, and I was there. And as soon as I started rewatching it, and as soon as she came out and said something like, "Daddy, I'm gonna go to the park. Will you give me a kiss?" I was like, okay, I remember this little girl very well. But there are some weird pacing issues. He just lingers a bit long on too many scenes. And he pulls you right back in, like you said, Erica, but there's certain scenes that just go on a little too long for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the things that, and just sort of on the topic of like getting pulled back in with like things that Susan says, I think that's one of the things that I love the most about this movie is not just like her just being a foul-mouthed, possessed little girl, but there's so much of it. Because if you think, I was trying to think about The Exorcist. It's been years since I've rewatched it, but is it really? I think there's really just kind of the one part where Regan says something really foul and fucked up. Like she just says, "Let Jesus fuck you," and then she, sticks her mom's head in her crotch and says, "Lick me." But Susan's cussing and talking about fucking and everything else. It's like through a lot of the movie. And so, but on top of that, there's also just I don't know if it's the translations or the dub and like the dialogue, but I think, Laird, I think you had something like this in your review, that it sounded like it was from like Aliens or something like that.
It's a combination of probably, someone trying to translate something from Italian to English, and then somebody trying to roughly match lip movement. So what they end up saying is not necessarily how you would say it in English, right? It's like, it has all these practical check boxes it has to hit first before it can make sense. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it just comes out as needed. And it's that kind of dubbing is really magical.
It is. Yeah. There's one at the end where the Father Juan is facing off with the possessed Susan, and then she turns into his former flame, Esther, and she says something, and it's one of those things where it's definitely like you use that word in the wrong way. And she's, she was like, "I was young and fresh," and it's like, "Ooh, no, that's all kinds of wrong." But it's like that kind of thing over and over and over again. And when it does it so much, I get so much enjoyment out of stuff like that.
And it's funny because we all identify it as an Exorcist ripoff, but as you pointed out, like they fixated on certain aspects of the Exorcist, and like repeat a couple of those things over and over. But they do away with it. Like she's not ever like in a bed, like being strapped to a bed with a priest trying to exorcise her at any point. Like that's almost every other Exorcist ripoff has that scene in one form or another. And this one doesn't have that. They do a good variation of the head spin though, where her head is on backwards and her whole body through some crude optical overlay turns around instead of her head. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I like about most of these, kind of cash-ins or remakes. They just kind of take it to the next level. They're like, "Hey, fuck spinning heads. That's for the kids. We're going to spin complete torsos here." And, in The Exorcist, there is vulgar, like with Regan and the crucifix scene, but like in Demon Witch Child, it's like, let's eat some babies. Let's castrate some dudes and give their junk as a gift. Like they just go hard, and I respect it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have this question though. Even though it does very shamelessly rip off most of The Exorcist, I'm not sure that De Osorio ever saw The Exorcist. Maybe someone just told him about the movie and they told him about certain scenes in the movie and then it just turned into this. And maybe that's why that whole strapped down to a bed being exercised scene isn't in there. Like, I have this weird feeling. I was like, I don't know if he ever actually saw The Exorcist, but it feels more like that sort of disconnected, like someone just told him a lot about the movie, like they explained it in a lot of detail to him, and then he just took what he remembered and turned it into this, which I love. I'm not complaining, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I would believe it. I think a lot of the ripoffs were not driven necessarily by the directors who we identify with them, but probably more the producers and like the money saying like, you know, I want you to hit these certain bullet points that I'm telling you because I know they're popular from The Exorcist. But yeah, probably everything else is just his sick imagination.
Yeah, I'm sure William Peter Blatty wouldn't be suing Sawyer here for any type of plagiarizing here.
Yeah, there's no magic devil dildo or whatever.
The message is basically don't fuck with witches. That's what kind of I get from this one.
On that note, I almost wish they hadn't identified them as gypsies because it feels like that, I don't know if that should be a like content warning, but I feel like it is maybe a little bit problematic like towards because the way they treat like, oh yeah, gypsies, they're just evil witches who worship Satan. It's like, no, it's an actual group of people, y'all.
Yeah. I think that's the one tip off too that the police, the commissioner are talking about. They're like, well, there is this old gypsy, and they're like, all right, check her out. She probably has the kid. And it's like, damn. Okay.
Yeah, like in a 2021 movie, that would be to show like the cops are racist and she had nothing to do with it. But in this movie, he's absolutely right. It wasn't.
Yeah, he also like the police also come to these other types of conclusions. Like I think it was at the beginning when they were talking about the church desecration. And one of the cops says, it was probably committed by some demented motherless woman. And I was like, whoa. I don't have kids. Look. So apparently that's an attribute of, you know, being a witch or a gypsy in this movie's universe. So
yeah, I mean, I often probably, I don't know, I shouldn't have gone to college, I guess, but I often like put on feelers for like, what are the politics of this filmmaker? Like, what is he trying to get at? Like, what's going on under the surface here? And this one, it was like, it's tough because the stuff like that is so obnoxiously on the surface and like hyper misogynist and hyper masculine. It's like, is this a parody of that? Like, does this guy actually think the police are ridiculous? There's a few lines, like stray lines in there too, where it's mentioned that the police tactics are really like violent and over the top. And because a couple of people are like, yeah, with your methods, like, of course you're going to get results. But I don't know. I almost wonder if like secretly he has a little bit of contempt for the police, or at least I hope so. Yeah. if they're going to be grabbing gypsies off the street and beating the crap out of them.
I can see that too, especially with that exchange between Susan and was it the police chief who was like trying to interrogate her after she dropped off the dick in the box?
Yeah.
She was like, oh, you're trying to interrogate me. And she's like, I'm, you know, smarter than you. And like, it basically like she came out on top of the situation, even though really the police chief got called away because Anne screamed when she found her boyfriend's dick in a box. But
that whole scene ruled.
Yeah, that's where you know you're watching it. Like this is a movie I like.
Yeah.
If you're on the fence before that.
Because it's so great. She just like, she cuts off his, she opens his pants after she kills him and she says something ridiculous like, oh, you're well hung. And then she takes out this tiny knife to cut it off, which, all right. And then she just like puts it in like a Kleenex or something and just skips away. She wraps it up very carefully as a present and then drops it off to Anne at the police station as a gift. It's like, yeah, you're not going to like that again, like what Lance said, you're not going to get stuff like that in the mainstream, which is why the knockoffs are so great. Cause they don't even turn it up to 11. They turn it up to like 15 or 16.
Yeah. It's like, it's such an uncomfortable scene for a little bit too. Cause you're like the fact that it's, you know, supposed to be a child. I think the actress is probably much older than the character is supposed to be, but still she's a child that's picking up this man and like, you don't know, you know, watching it for the first time where it's going. And
yeah.
And then like when she reaches in his pants, you're like, oh God, like where was this? Like, I was relieved when she killed him, and now where is this going? But yeah, then where it ultimately goes is such a like pressure valve release of like, oh, this is funny now.
Yeah. Yeah, because there is that moment where you're like, wait a minute, like, are we getting into necrophilia territory here? Like pedophile, necrophilia, and there's some combination word of that somewhere, and I don't want to figure it out.
And it's weirdly not like that sleazy up until that point, like especially compared to like Tombs of the Blind Dead, where there's like nude women strapped to crosses being whipped and stuff. Like like nothing like that has happened in this movie, so it's really jarring. It's like what's gonna happen?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of scenes where it gets like so kind of creepy, and there's so much like strong meanness at play in this movie, like throughout. But it usually, you kind of end the scene laughing because it is so all absurd, but like the meanness is there, like what they do with like the eating the babies and men digging up grave and setting the body on fire, and really the overall triumph of evil, like with Susan's death as well as Esther's. But it's terribly sad, specifically how Esther reacts to losing her man and what became of her. Like that whole message was like, I just feel it's terrible.
Yeah.
I guess if you're a Spanish Catholic watching this movie in 1970, I've already forgotten the year, that opening scene where she walks into the church and desecrates the altar would like already like let you know like, oh, this movie is going there. I only speak a little bit of Spanish. My heritage is my dad's side of the family's Spanish Cuban, but like a lot of the cuss words involve like weird Catholic like evocations of Catholic belief. So yeah, it's like very tied to, your sense of things being upsetting or offensive is like invoking religion in that way. So yeah, that movie just opens up and then they kill a baby within like the first 5 minutes. So you're like, wow, this movie will go anywhere. Yeah. I guess like you shouldn't be shocked by the time she's cutting off a wiener.
Yeah. You shouldn't be, but I mean, I think that was the thing that like sold me on the movie in the first place, because Lance knows my love for child murder in movies. Oh, yeah. Like I've told him before, like Zach's compilation was pretty much the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. But I think that, I mean, the whole, that says something too about, who the audience would be, not just for this movie, but for the sort of original source material. Because, the first time I saw The Exorcist, I was very young, and it didn't scare me for the reasons that it scared other people. Because I grew up with zero religion. And so I was just like, well, the idea of possession and the devil doesn't scare me, but it's still a very effective movie. But I'm scared for a different reason. But I can see why, like, in Spain in 1974, 75, like this would definitely hit home in a very Catholic country audience.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's that one scene too where Susan first goes to the Coven of Witches, before they drink the blood of the baby, and she gnaws on his little arm, where she basically has to just renounce her God in baptism and prayers and give up her body and strength to Lucifer. And that, again, it's just introducing like, okay, this film's going to those places. So strap yourself in. Here we go.
And I love, unlike The Exorcist, this has a Coven of Witches, which is super. Mm-hmm. That's all. Like, talk about star ratings. That's automatically 2 stars as a baseline. if you have a scene of like a bunch of women dancing around a fire, like invoking Satan, that's like, I'm on board.
Always.
Well, yeah, and if you have a dead baby, that's at least 4 stars.
Exactly. Add some more on.
All right, Lance, what else do you have in your notes that you wanted to touch on?
Well, I know on your on the crew, you didn't point out the music by Victor and Diego.
Well, because I always defer to you on that. So
right. So I do like to concentrate on the composed music and original scores. And I looked these guys up, and they only had 2 other films that they composed music for, which was around the same time, and I think they were comedies. But there is actually a very recent musical pairing called Victor and Diego that I don't recommend, but they're out there and they're singing, pop songs. But I loved the composition of this. It's just super experimental, completely genre blending. It's very cartoony. Like at times it's like, it feels like you're watching Wile E. Coyote preparing a trap to catch the Roadrunner. Specifically, there's the one scene where the young witch, who we don't know, the young gypsy witch, is giving Susan the necklace and then the doll. It has this, I don't know, like a floor tom cartoon, like boom, and you're just like, what is going on? And then it goes into synths and chants, and then like malfunctioning computer sounds and Fisher Price toy pianos. It's all over the place. And I loved it. I mean, that kept me intrigued too, especially during a lot of those slow moments where Victor and Diego are kind of keeping my eyes open. So great original score.
So so you said the new Victor and Diego is a no-go though, right?
It's a no-go. I mean, I started like clicking on random songs, obviously it's two guys, Victor and Diego, and they seem to sing. They're just vocalists. They're not a band. But I found numerous videos where they're singing with what look like twins. And they're all harmonizing together. So I was intrigued about the twins, and I watched it probably too long. But yeah, don't recommend it. They did have a ton of views, so obviously they're popular in some Spanish countries.
All right. But they're no Bang Tango.
Oh hell no, jeez.
All right. Well, okay. So new Victor and Diego or that Birkin Hair song.
The Birkin Hair, one?
That one.
Oh, I go with the Birkin Hair because you learn history as you're listening. At least.
That's a fair thing. Anything else besides score you want to touch on?
No, I mean, we hit up on a lot of the great characters. Police Chief Morrison, who, reacts so unnaturally that it's just so much fun to watch him. But there's one other character, which was the newspaper editor.
Right, yeah.
And he's so passionate. Like whenever he's on the scenes, he's just like, get a good picture of that kid's body. Make sure we can see the wounds. We got to sell them papers. Welcome to the newspaper business, son. and then when the guy's killed, he's livid that there are no arrests. And basically he thinks he was killed for speaking the truth, being a newspaperman. And him and his newspaper will uncover this mystery of who the murderer is. And I wish there was more of him. He was kind of popping up in a lot of random scenes, but I kind of wish he was there just at the end watching Susan die.
Yeah. He has a little bit of the, who's the Spider-Man editor?
Is it Jonah Jameson?
Yeah. He's got kind of that energy where he's just like body and just like, like, oh yeah. Like when Bill brings him the article and is like, these two things are tied together, this, baby murder and this witch. And, even though she's dead, like, and he's like, yeah, run with it, but make sure the picture shows the wounds. And yeah, like, right. I'm like, yeah, I fucking love this guy. Of course you got to show the dead baby on the front page with the wounds. So good. Laird, anything else you had that you wanted to touch on?
No, I guess it only mentioned it in passing though, that the whole subplot with the priest is a really large chunk of the movie at one point.
Yeah.
And I think that's what marks this also as being Spanish or at least a European film too. It's just like this long stretch of melodrama about a guy whose former love has turned to vice because he left her. It's like, it's such silly melodrama that it's like, it's really maybe the roughest patches of the movie, but then it ends up having a payoff though in the very end. So it's worth it, I guess. I don't know.
I think, at least it ties back in and it's not just like this other subplot there to like attempt to be his test of faith, but it never gets to that. It tries. It doesn't really work as a test of faith subplot, but at least it ties back in at the end.
I like her when she becomes a prostitute. For some reason, she starts wearing a sex worker. She starts wearing a you can't do that on television, mom. Like I Love Lucy wig. Like it's just this like ridiculous curly orange wig.
It's so good.
I mean, and the moral of the story here is priests cause prostitution. That's kind of what that whole message is, right?
Yeah, that's the whole point of the movie, obviously.
Because the attempt at like adding emotional weight to it wasn't working. It's very strange.
Yeah. I guess the last thing that I wanted to talk about is sort of more so about the director than the movie itself. But I think that I know that De Osorio is most known for the Blind Dead movies, but I think what's also important to recognize about him is that he created these like very unique original horror monsters. Like they're these blind mummies of the Knights Templar. And while yes, you can say it's borrowed from this or that, he had trouble getting that first one even made in the first place because it didn't have familiar monsters like Dracula or Frankenstein or anything like that. And he was able to create something original that has lasted and stood the test of time. At least I think so. And not even just the Blind Dead, but like the Lorelei being adapted from mythology. I think that's a great one too. So he's really got like 2 unique original horror monsters under his belt. So on top of doing, creating these original unique monsters, he also makes fantastically entertaining ripoffs. He makes this, he makes the sea serpent, and I'm going to say it, I think this is the best Exorcist ripoff. This is my favorite, and Beyond the Door is a close second for me. There's a lot, like 74 was Beyond the Door, Abby, this one.
Abby's great.
I do love Abby, but for different reasons. There's a Sexorcist. Laird.
Yeah, I want to say there's another movie called Possessor or Possessed from Italy that has he's like a grizzled American actor who was in film noir and did Italian movies in the 70s. Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's
Beyond the Door is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
But
it was until I saw this movie.
Is there any baby killing in Beyond the Door? I don't think I've seen that one. Child killing.
No, but there's a homeless guy that plays the flute with his nose.
There is that.
That one's my favorite too.
You haven't seen it. God damn it.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. Maybe I should watch it in closer proximity to Demon Witch Child. Maybe I'll flip too.
Yay. We'll reassess. I do have another top Exorcist ripoff, but I'm going to save that for my double feature recommendations, which we'll get into right now. So, Laird, you are our guest. So we generally start with what did you give this on Letterboxd? And then what would you pair this with in a double feature and why?
Okay, so I gave it 4 stars. And I'd stand by that on a rewatch. It's entertaining enough to get you past that 3-star, which I consider the baseline. If a movie's entertaining, it's a 3-star movie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, then this has all of the wonderful things we talked about that just really make it stand out into your memory. Especially, there's a few, like I'd mostly forgotten the plot details, but there's a few scenes that I remembered. As far as what I would pair it with, I would say Beyond the Door if you want to do an Exorcist ripoff double feature, but let's go. I love the name Demon, like such a better name than The Possessed, Demon Witch Child. It's one of those like just 3-word combos like Purple Monkey Dishwasher, Neutral Milk Hotel. It's almost like they threw darts at a list of words, and I love that about it. Princess Dragon Mom is one of my favorite 3-word combinations from Super Inframan. But there's another, I believe it's British movie from around the same period called, and I think you all have reviewed it, called Night Hare Child. It has another name, but Night Hare Child is the better title, and I'm forgetting what the AKA is. But it's about a young boy who's got some parent issues and may or may not be a killer kid. And that movie has that like tension and like weird sexual tension throughout it between the kid and older women, and then it has one of the best endings of all time. So that I won't spoil.
That sounds like What the Peeper Saw.
Yes, that's what the Peeper Saw is.
Okay.
I remember. Night Hare Child is the AKA.
Okay. I love that movie. Yes, that ending is fucking fantastic.
Yes.
Lance, I own it. You can borrow it if you want to watch it.
Okay, yeah, I feel like I'm really just unprepared here. I haven't seen anything people are talking about.
Yeah, that's got well, I think there's some dispute about who directed it, but Andrea Bianchi is one of them. So Burial Ground, Lance, your favorite.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's right. Burial Ground and Cry of the Prostitute's also really good.
I love, that's a really great one too. That one just got a Blu-ray that I promptly got.
Yeah, his movies aren't really like anybody else. Like he's working within genres that are familiar, but his movies are not like anything else in those genres. As Burial Ground can attest, it's like nominally a zombie movie, sure, but there's a lot else going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great pick. I wholeheartedly would agree with that. Lance, your rating and double pairing.
I gave Demon Witch Child 3 stars with the heart. So yeah, I did enjoy it. Every time we finish talking about an episode, I'm like, it deserves so much more, if I re-rated it. But yeah, my initial...
bump it up then. It's got a 2.7 on there for some god-awful fucking reason. I don't understand people.
I've been that one person where I've actually, my rating has changed the overall rating, and that makes me feel so powerful.
You could be that person now.
I might do that. But yeah, for my double feature, so I know when we announced Laird was our guest last week, and Laird, we already commented on how great your Letterboxd reviews are. They're chef's kiss. So I'm selecting a pair with Demon Witch Child that has some similarities, but mainly I just want everybody to go read Laird's review of this film because it's one of the best. And it also has a theme with Demon Witch Child, which is never take gifts from a stranger. So my pick is Lucio Fulci's Manhattan Baby from 1982.
Yes.
Apparently it's also known as Possessed in UK and Australia. So, and of course, Eye of the Evil Dead. But so for those who haven't seen it, an archaeologist opens an Egyptian tomb, which seemingly releases an evil spirit, and then the spirit energy, along with this amulet given by a creepy old blind woman to the archaeologist's daughter, it takes possession over this young girl. Then we go to New York, where some crazy supernatural murders begin. And while there are no coven of witches holding rituals or anything, there are ancient Egyptian spells involved where religion is sort of channeled. And it's all just like this unbelievably bizarre nightmare. And, I commented on Victor and Diego, and here we have Fabio Frizzi providing the original score, which is terrific. So good music all around. So yeah, another film of child possession. It does have pacing issues and like a hazy narrative, and might be considered lesser Fulci by some, but I think it's fun as hell. I just love it. And really, it's all about Laird's review. So go read that. It'll make you want to watch it. It's streaming on Tubi, and Blue Underground have a Blu-ray with some nice extras.
It's like there's a period from I don't know where it begins to the end of his career where lesser Fulci is still great. Like there's no. I feel like a lot of these movies get underseen because they're not zombie and they're not the Beyond, and yeah, I think all of the Enigma and Manhattan Baby, all of those movies are worth watching. They're fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I love Enigma. I don't know why people. Yeah, I'll watch anything Fulci. There's a few I haven't gone backwards to watch like his comedies or anything because I don't know that I would like them, but maybe someday we'll see.
It might be controversial, but I think I like him more than Argento. I think he's more consistent. Like, Argento has some towering masterpieces, but he also kind of dropped off.
But yeah, later Argento doesn't hold up as well as later Fulci.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think that's a hot take at all. Like that, that's very, very true. Ooh, yeah. All right, so I also gave this 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd for all the reasons we already talked about and that Laird mentioned. And ironically, I am also pairing this movie with a Bianchi movie. It is his sexploitation exorcist ripoff, Malabimba, from 1979. This has a Vinegar Syndrome release. I'm going to say this up front. This is not for everyone. So if you are not interested in watching a sexploitation movie, specifically one that has hardcore sex scene inserts in it, maybe you go with Lance or Laird's recommendation instead. But it has if you're comfortable with watching that, it has a very distinct Bianchi sexual sleaze to it. I would obviously start with Demon Witch Child as a sort of fun, what the fuck exorcist ripoff, and then end with Malabimba. It's this gothic sleaze fest. It has one of the characters who is hypersexualized, but she's never punished for it. So it's very sort of forward thinking in that respect. But the young girl Bimba, if you think Reagan going downstairs during her mom's party and peeing on the carpet was like, ooh, you should watch this movie and see what Bimba does during her parents' party. So yeah, Malabimba, 1979 would be my pairing. with this one. If I was going to, I actually had the sea serpent originally. I was like, let's just do a fun rip-off double feature. And then I was like, no, I just want to make people uncomfortable in the second movie. So yeah, there you go. Because that's what I do best. I'm not the nice one here. So
I'm intrigued.
All right. And it's got the Vinegar Syndrome release has a commentary by Sam Deegan and Kat Ellinger, and I think Heather Drain is on it too. I haven't listened to it yet, but yeah, I mean, it's Vinegar Syndrome puts out great stuff. So
yeah, they're doing such amazing stuff. Like Vinegar Syndrome and Severin lately have just been like, take my money, please.
Yeah, Severin is killing it for me this year. I'm like every release or announcement, I'm like, there goes money that month. I was like, Lance, next episode, what are we doing?
Next pick, I am going with Blood Song from 1982, aka Dream Slayer. It's directed by Alan J. Levy, and it's about teenager Marion Hauser, who was involved in a car accident years ago caused by her drunken father, which left her unable to walk without the assistance of a leg brace. The accident also required her to receive a blood transfusion, and the blood was donated from a patient from a mental institute. This patient is completely psychotic, and he escapes and begins murdering just about everyone in his path. And during his killing spree, Marion begins having visions and seeing the murders take place because, you guessed it, she has the psycho's blood coursing through her veins. As the murders get closer and closer to her coastal Oregon town, she finally comes face to face with the killer, or rather, the blood donor who saved her life. The film stars Donna Wilkes and a completely insane performance from 1950s teen idol, Frankie Avalon.
What?
Yeah. And
He's so good at it.
He's nuts. He's crazy in this. And it has one hell of a twisted ending. But with just over 300 views on Letterboxd, you can find it on YouTube. Blood Song from 1982.
Okay. I'm into it. Frankie Avalon. All right. I'm curious about what your outro song is going to be for that one now.
It's going to be a Ramones song. No, I was kidding.
Fair enough. All right. If you are not already, please give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, or what's the other one? Twitter, all at Unsung Horrors. You can follow me on Letterboxd under the username Also Watched. You can also follow my other podcast, Customers Also Watched, on Twitter at CAW Podcast, Facebook or Instagram under Customers Also Watched. Lance, where can people find and follow you?
I'm El Shaibi on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd.
And Laird, you've got a Twitch thing coming up. You want to tell people about that and where to follow you?
Yeah, so Museum of Home Video on Twitch. I think there's no reason why everybody listening to this wouldn't love the show. It's my colleague and friend Brett Berg and Jenny Nixon basically showing found footage clips for an hour and a half, 2 hours every Tuesday night at 9:30. And the show has gotten so popular, they've decided to turn it into basically a UHF channel. So now it has extra shows. There's Friday Night Frights, which is a great show run by Josh, I think it's Miller in LA. LA Days is another show they have. And then Zach Carlson, who many of you probably know and love from previously doing Terror Tuesday and working with Fantastic Fest, writer, author of Destroy All Movies, The Complete Guide to Punks on Film. Zach Carlson is going to be hosting an action show. And it's going to be the third Sunday of every month on the Museum of Home Video Twitch channel. And I'll be supporting Zach with video, all the video assistance and technical assistance he needs, as well as some input into the choices and, some pre-show fun and like short clips that we'll use to fill out a full 2 hours on the show. So look for that. It's called Deathblade. I didn't say what it's called. Deathblade is a name Zach got from a Rambo trading card. Is one of the cards was called Deathblade. But the first show will be, I'm not sure when this show is airing, but the first Deathblade is March 21st.
Oh, perfect timing. Yeah, because this is coming out the Thursday before that. So, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, March 21st, 9:30 Central Time on Museum of Home Video Twitch.
So the Twitch channel is Museum of Home Video, but the series is going to be called Deathblade, right?
Correct. Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah, you tune in the Museum of Home Video is the channel and Deathblade is the show.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm subscribed on that. I'm subscribed to two things on Twitch because I can't I watch it on like one TV in the house, and like there's like two things. The Museum of Home Video is one of them, and that's on your recommendation, Laird. So,
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I'll definitely be checking that out. Where can people follow you on the social things, just so in case they forget and they miss it, and maybe you'll be posting about it. So
I am Laird on Letterboxd, just Laird. On Twitter, I'm Pobrecito, and that's Pobrceito. It's what my grandmother called me when I was a baby. And on, I'm having to think too hard about this. I should have just used the same name like Lance everywhere. On Instagram, I'm Ouija2000.
Laird, are you from the Rio Grande Valley?
I am not. I grew up in Atlanta. I was born in Atlanta.
For some reason, I thought you were.
No.
I'm
a Georgia peach.
I was born there too. I was born in Norcross.
Okay, yeah, that's just outside of Atlanta. I know Norcross.
I don't remember it because I moved to California when I was 3 with my family. But I'm a Georgia peach myself. Lance tried to claim me for himself.
I was real excited. For some reason, I just thought you were the Valley, where I'm from.
No. My colleague, Ben, who used to work in the video department in Alamo, was a Valley boy. But not me. I like Texas, though. Not necessarily the leadership, but it's a great state otherwise.
Yes, wholeheartedly agree with that. Laird, this has been really fun, not just only talking about this movie, but, hearing your voice again. We miss you at Weird Wednesdays, and I really appreciate you coming on for this.
Thank you for having me, and, we'll be back in the theater soon enough, hopefully.
Soon enough, but it's going to be, it's going to be a different world, but...
It'll feel that much sweeter at first, though. Like, maybe we were taking it for granted. This is our way to recalibrate. Yeah,
I'm not going to take it for granted. I am not going to miss a single fucking Terror Tuesday or Weird Wednesday ever. I'm going to be, if someone says, oh, it's my, it's my mom's 50th birthday. Well, she's like 80 now. But anyway, I'm going to be like, sorry, Mom, it's Wednesday. I got plans. That's how dead serious I am about not missing.
Your mom stays up late, Erica?
She's a rock star. Well, thanks once again, Laird, for joining us for this. I'm sure we'll be asking you back soon. And thanks to everyone for listening. Have a good night, y'all. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
I know that you're with me. I hear your footsteps matching pace. And I know what you're thinking, like words were carved into your face. So can I free myself from you? There's only one way that I know. There's only one